Hello and welcome to TEC Bike Parts. Today we're going to be showing you the new DNA high performance filter for the Triumph Scrambler 1200, the XE and the XC. When this bike came out, with it being a dirt bike, we thought that it would be a good idea to have a washable filter for this bike. So one of the first things we did was get in contact with our friends at DNA and ask them to start prototyping a filter for it straight away. So they ordered an air box up from Triumph and put it on their high-tech airflow bench and did some work with it. All that work's now come to fruition, and we have the filters in stock now. It's a fairly straightforward job to fit it, and I'm going to show you how to do that now. The only tool you'll need, one tool that's the only thing you'll need to fit it, is a Torx drive. You can either use one out of a socket set, or I find it easier to use a Torx screwdriver. It's a T15 Torx size is what you need. So we'll get on and we'll show you how you do that. The filters come pre-oiled, so all you need to do is literally take it out of the box, take your paper filter out and put this one in. Straightforward as that. The DNA do say to service them at between 6,000 and 10,000 kilometres, but that will vary on how dusty and dirty the conditions. Now if you're using one of these bikes off-road on dusty tracks and things like that, you're going to be wanting to wash it and clean it more regularly. Now, the cost of one of these filters is probably less than the price of 2 paper filters from Triumph, so it makes good economic sense to buy one of these and a service kit which includes the cleaning fluid and the oil, and that will give you many cleaning cycles of the filter, and the filter would last around about 100,000 kilometres, sorry. So that will be in for the life of the bike, as long as you regularly service it, wash it out. And obviously the cleaner the filter is, the better the performance you'll get out of the bike. Now these filters will flow a lot more air than the standard paper filter, because paper filters, even when they're new, are quite restrictive, but when they get dirty they become very restrictive, even more restrictive, sorry. Whereas these tend to keep the performance up even when they have dirt in them. The performance levels are superior to a paper filter, unless they get really caked, but obviously then you're going to realise that you've been riding in lots of dirt and you need to change it. But if you ride your bike in dirty or dusty conditions, these are a must. But generally for every day, they're a must as well, because they'll save you money, they'll give you better performance. You feel it straight away when you put them in, particularly if you do the mod on the intake snorkel, which I'll show you later on in the video, which is a free mod. You can do that whether or not you've got a high flow filter in at all, and I'll explain why that's there and why you can do that. But for now we'll get on and show you how to fit the filter. Okay, so first of all we need to remove the left hand side panel. Now if you remove it from the rear, these just push on, these side panels, onto rubbers if you've never had them off before. So you've got a fitting at the rear there, one at the bottom, just ease them off, and then take the front one off last. If you take the front one off first, you can actually scratch it on this panel here if you're not careful. So if you take it off that way. Now it looks a bit daunting when you get here, when you first see all this wiring. Mostly just relays and your fuse boxes. There's nothing too important there. As long as actually it's quite easy to get them back on the right way when you put them on the clips, because the way the wiring is, they're in a row. But we need to get your Torx drive, and I find it easier if we unscrew the plate first and then pull the fittings off the plate. But I'll show you how to do that. We need to take this screw off here first. There's 3 little silver screws we need to remove. Got one there, that one there. And then there's one at the front of this relay bank. And then this should be loose. Now if you there's a little clip on there, if you just tip it forward and pull the fuse box off, then you can swing it out of the way. Now this fuse here, that this one just pulls off, that's your OBD2 sensor plug, diagnostic plug. That just sits in a little port on there. That doesn't actually plug in anything, in case you're worried. That's just it goes onto a cover there, and that's obviously for when your dealer plugs in for diagnostics. Okay, so we just need to unclip these relays off these little tags, and like I say, if you got them mixed up, it's not critical, but as you see, the wiring goes in a line, so they're all fairly straightforward to get onto there. Now the only fiddly one is to get off is this large fuse here, and you actually have to pull it outwards and then feed it back in again. And because the cable is very short, it's a bit awkward. So as you normally, if you just pull on the cable a little bit, you'll get enough through there, and then you can get this plate out. Now you can leave these ones on, or if they're a bit tight, you can unclip them. What you'll find is the wiring is quite tight at the bottom here for this screw, and depending on how your harness has been fitted, you may have to sort of pull on the harness a little bit to get that out. So, like I say, I've already taken that screw out by mistake there at the top. So you've got 4 black screws, they're like a shiny black, and these are your 4 screws for the actual air filter. So you just remove those 4. Right, so that's the air filter plate ready to come out. Now what you'll find that, well, on this bike in particular, this plate here is actually very tight against the wiring harness there, but you will find it'll flex enough to go over it if you're just a bit persuasive with it. So this is the actual air filter carrier plate, and the air filter just actually slots into it from below like that. So that's your paper filter, and we just need to replace that with the new DNA filter. So the DNA filter comes wrapped in polythene. It actually comes with all your warranty bits of paper and stickers and everything in the box. Now it comes sealed in polythene because it's pre-oiled, to stop getting any dirt on it, and also to stop the oil drying out or anything like that. And you simply slip that into the holder, the same as the old filter came in, and then slide the holder cassette back in again. Now what you might find, if I'm going to fit in standard air filters to these, it's quite difficult to get the cartridge to actually locate. This wiring harness doesn't help either. Just make sure that that one's gone straight in, that all 4 mounting screws are actually flush against the airbox. If you find that 2 are in and 2 are sticking out, don't try to put the screws in to pull it in. What it means is that the far side of the air filter hasn't located properly, so you'll just have to take it out and jiggle it so it goes into the seat properly. But that one's in there right, because it's all floor flush, so you simply need to put the screws back in again. And this bike's fairly new, and you wouldn't expect to see any problems with wiring or relays or anything. But while you're in here, especially if it's an older bike, or if it's had a bit of a life off-road, it may be worth making sure that all these connectors and relays are all greased up to stop any dirt or corrosion getting into them. And if you do have any problems, you can use some light grease on them, or silicone spray or something to try and dispel any moisture. But these are all still fairly well greased up. Right, we need to put the fuse plate back in place now. And the first thing we need to, if we just put it roughly in place, then we need to pull the large fuse holder back through the hole again. It just normally takes a bit of a jiggle, and then you've got to pull it past, and it hooks on like that, and you'll hear a click when it goes back on. Pop your relays back on the locating pegs. Right, so I've put the screws back in again there, the 3 little silver screws. And obviously if you've taken your bottom relays off, which I didn't do there, you need to pop those back on. I like to put the fuse box in last because it's easier to get your screws when you're doing it. This one can be a bit of a fiddle to get in. So we just need to clip your fuse box back on. Needs a bit of a pull against the wiring, and then you pop your ODB2 diagnostic socket back on its mounting port there. And that's all done. Just need to pop the side panel back on. Again, put it in from the front at first to stop you scratching it. And locate your bottom one, then your rear. Just make sure that's on nice and tight. If you have problems getting that on or off, just put a little bit of silicone grease on the rubbers. But they're nice and soft because they're fairly new, those rubbers there. Right, I'll show you now how to do the snorkel if you want to do it, but we need to take the seat off to do that. But that's an option, you don't have to do it. But that's the actual air filter fitted there now. But I'll move the camera and we'll go and do the snorkel. Okay, so to get your snorkel on top of the air filter, you need to first remove the seat with your key, obviously. And you need to remove these two screws here and this screw here to get the underseat protection plate off. We don't need to fully remove this, we just need to loosen it and move it back, just so we've got access to the front area here, because the snorkel is located underneath here. No, obviously if you're doing this you're going to need an Allen key as well. I know I said you only needed one tool to fit the air filter, which you do, but if you're doing the snorkel you will need an Allen key to get these three little screws out. So we'll just pop that to one side. Now this is your snorkel intake here. I've actually already removed the snorkel. So that's the rubber snorkel that fits in there. Now we found during airflow bench testing this actually restricted the flow about 8% at maximum flow. Now there's two reasons why I try and fit this, and if you do ride in a lot of wet, dirty conditions, you may not want to take it out, because what it does, it diverts the air forward away from directly onto the air filter. So the air has to come through, round, and then back round onto the air filter again. So obviously that's why it restricts the flow. So if the air is coming in here and the air filter sits here, you see it's got to change direction once, then change direction again, and then change direction again into the filter. Now there's a couple of reasons why I try and do this. One, there's the regulation for noise on air boxes. Now this acts as a noise suppressor on your intake. Two, with it being a dirt bike, you don't want water or air going straight onto a paper filter, because the paper filter will get wet, and a paper filter will get destroyed if it gets wet. So I can see the point of that. Washable filters aren't so bad because water doesn't tend to affect them as much. The oil makes the water run off, and the material it's made of isn't affected by the water as well. But if you're the sort of person that goes wading through rivers, well, I'm saying it goes in a lot of wet conditions. We've test ridden this bike and we've waded it through rivers up to about this sort of level, sort of just below my knees on the pegs, and we've had no signs of any water getting into here whatsoever. So I think the only way you'd get water in is if you fully drop the bike, in which case it wouldn't matter if that was there anyway. So it seems a pretty well protected place for water, because it's got a little flap over the top anyway. If you take this off, you'll find straight away that the bike sounds different, and it does feel a lot more responsive on the throttle. Now, to get the best out of the filter and the snorkel removal, I recommend fitting a booster plug, which just richens it up at the bottom end, and that makes it much more responsive at the lower revs and takes any stalling tendency away from lean mixture. But it's literally a matter, you just pull that out, quite heavy actually for a bit of rubber, and pop the seat back in. It's as simple as that. And like I say, just doing that even without changing the air filter, it's a free mod that you can do. You'll feel that the bike will be quite a bit peppier straight away when you've done it, and you say it's a free mod. Everybody likes free mods. But it's down to you whether you feel happy enough if you're going to go somewhere where it's really, really wet, and you don't want the chance of the paper filter getting wet, don't do it. Simple as that. But it isn't so much of an issue with a washable filter. The only other issue you might have if somebody was crazy with a jet wash and put it in here, you might get some water going in there. But even then, I think it's pretty difficult to do the way the sides of these air boxes are. I can't see a way that you're going to get the water in there unless you fully immerse the bike. Okay, so that's it all done now. What I would always highly recommend if you do anything on the fuel or exhaust side on a modern Triumph EFI motorcycle is let the bike auto adjust once you've finished doing your mods. Now a lot of people don't know how this system works, but all modern Triumph ECUs have an auto adjust function to allow for small sensor anomalies and wear on the engine to compensate for things like that. What the ECU has is sort of a learning cycle, and you can put it into an auto adjust mode. To put it in auto adjust mode, you need to start the bike up from absolutely stone cold. So if you've had the bike running, don't bother. Let it sit overnight and do it again the next day. Now what you must do when you start it up is not to touch the throttle. If you increase the throttle at all, it won't go properly into auto adjust mode. So literally all you do is turn the key on, pull the clutch in, make sure it's in neutral, and press the start button. Let the clutch out and then let it go through its warm-up cycle. What you need to do is basically, like I said, the bike will start off with a higher rev in cold start, and it will settle down. And as it's warming up and settling down, the bike, once it gets up to full operating temperature, will then start taking mixture sensors from the O2 sensors in the exhaust. It's also monitoring the air temperature, the water temperature on the water-cooled models, or the oil temperature on the air-cooled ones. And it's looking at the sensor readings it's getting, and it's looking to see if the sensor readings are what it would expect to be and compensating as such. Because every sensor on the bike, and there's lots of them, has a tolerance factor of probably plus or minus 5%. And if you had an accumulation factor on those sensors, if they're all out one way 5%, it would throw the ECU out. Also, like things like I say, like engine wear, the ECU can compensate for that. It's very clever in that respect. So it sets the mixture, which is correct for the bike, at all the warm-up temperatures. Once it's got up to, what Triumph say is wait 20 minutes until the fan cuts in, the coolant fan, and then wait a further 12 minutes. I've found in practice it normally about 20 minutes. So go away and make yourself a cup of tea, you know, watch the TV for a bit and come back after 20 minutes. Just come in and switch it off, it should be fine. But always make sure it's in a well ventilated area, you don't want to gas yourself, and there's no kids around, anything like that. But after 20 minutes, turn it off, then take it for a gentle ride afterwards. Try to ride through as much different type of traffic as you can, so slow traffic, brisk acceleration, drive a bit on a dual carriageway or a fast road, and then switch it off again, and that should complete your auto adjust cycle. And you will find that the bike will run just that little bit crisper and nicer afterwards, because it's just had that little bit of fine tune. It's not the same as a remap. People get confused. The auto adjust is basically to do what I've said there. It's to compensate for anywhere in the engine or sensor anomalies or very slight manufacturing defects from bike to bike. Not every motorcycle is the same, and as they do wear, things change on them. So it has this facility built into it. It's sort of an auto learning thing, and you can use it to your advantage when you change things on the bike. But if you do radical modifications, it won't up the fueling like a vast amount or anything like that. It's just a fine tune. Booster plug I highly recommend, because even with the auto reset on Euro 4, it doesn't allow it to run rich enough at low revs, and also it has positive fuel cut-off. So when you come back on, it's very lean and tends to be messy and hesitant, and the booster plug smooths that out. It does make it a much nicer bike to ride. So on all these bikes, whether you've modified them or not, I would say the booster plug is a well worthwhile thing to fit. We've done a separate video on that, explains how all that works as well. So have a look at that, see what you think. As with everything we do, if you're not 100% happy with it, send it back, we'll give you a full refund. We can't say further than that. All DNA products come with a full manufacturer back warranty. We are now the UK distributor for DNA filters, and obviously we have good connection with the factory. We work well with them on development of new products. This has been a good one because we started this on the new Royal Enfield Interceptor 650. We worked with them start to finish on it to get the products developed and onto the bikes as quickly as we possibly could, because they don't normally bring filters out straight away. They tend to wait until they've been on the market for about a year, but we wanted to get them straight out on this, so we pushed the development on that, and they're now on the shelf ready to go. So thanks for watching. We'll be bringing more products out on this and many other bikes over the winter. We do have some projects to do on this, and as soon as they're sorted, we'll do more videos on them. So thanks for watching and see you soon. Bye bye.